The day began like any other, the sun barely cresting the horizon as the temple grounds lay still under the morning mist. But today, there was something different in the air. Lucas the Seeker had come to the temple in search of answers, yet found only more questions. Sitting cross-legged in the courtyard, he was consumed by a sense of emptiness. Master Takashi, standing by a simple stone lantern, suddenly turned to Lucas and spoke with quiet authority. "You are seeking, but you are lost in your search." The words hung in the air like a veil. Lucas' heart raced, torn between pride and fear. How could it be true? How could he, who had devoted years to the path, be lost? The world outside had always seemed full of distractions, and yet, the more he searched for peace, the more he found only confusion. With trembling hands, Lucas stood up and faced the master, his face a mix of anger, disbelief, and desperation. "But I am trying. I am doing everything right," he cried out, his voice echoing across the empty grounds. Master Takashi's face remained impassive, his gaze steady. "The right path is not found through effort alone. It is found through stillness. You are seeking with a heart full of desire, but true peace is born from emptiness." Lucas' mind raced, rejecting the simplicity of the words. Master Takashi's teachings had always been cryptic, yet today they cut deeper than ever before. "You must let go," Master Takashi added softly, "and then you will see." But Lucas, still caught in the whirlwind of his own thoughts, could not understand. For the first time, he wondered if his entire journey had been in vain. Lucas walked away from Master Takashi, feeling as though he was trapped in a labyrinth of his own making. The soft footsteps on the stone path were the only sound breaking the morning silence. Naisho when breaking the morning silence. With each step, he grew more frustrated. What does he mean by emptiness? I've tried to clear my mind, but it only fills with more noise. How can I let go of something that feels so real? Lucas' mind raced, every thought an echo of his failure. He had come here for answers, but all he found was more confusion. As the temple gates loomed ahead, the weight of Master Takashi's words lingered in the air. "You must let go, then you will see." Lucas wanted to shout, to throw his hands in the air. But deep down, a part of him knew the truth in the Master's words. His quest had been a desperate attempt to control everything, to find peace through force. Lucas paused, closing his eyes for a brief moment. It was then he realized the search for peace had only created more unrest. He had to let go of his need to understand, to control the journey. But was it possible to stop searching? To simply be? Lucas paused at the edge of the temple grounds, staring out at the open field beyond. The wind rustled the leaves, creating a soft murmur in the quiet morning. There, standing at the threshold of the world outside, he was caught between two opposing forces. One side urged him to continue searching, to grasp at something elusive that might bring clarity, while the other whispered to let go and simply be. The conflict within him was overwhelming. In the distance, the sound of footsteps approached, soft but steady. Amara, the fellow disciple, appeared at the corner of the temple wall. Lucas' first instinct was to ignore her, but something about her presence made him pause. Amara had always seemed at peace, exuding a sense of acceptance that Lucas could never quite grasp. With a gentle smile, Amara spoke. "You are searching for something that cannot be found in the outside world. It is already within you, in the space between thoughts, in the stillness of your heart." The words hit Lucas like a sudden wave. He had heard similar teachings before, but now, in this moment, they felt different. Lucas turned to face Amara, the weight of his confusion beginning to lift slightly. But the doubt remained. How could he find peace if he couldn't understand the path? He had spent so long trying to force himself into something that wasn't there. Was it possible to truly surrender? To embrace the unknown and trust in the present moment? Lucas' gaze shifted from Amara to the open world before him. The words echoed in his mind, "It is already within you." The air around him felt heavier now, as though the very atmosphere was holding its breath. The tension in Lucas' chest tightened, and he felt the weight of his own desire to understand, to make sense of it all. "How can you be so sure?" Lucas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How do you know that peace is within me when all I feel is chaos?" Amara did not immediately respond. Instead, she walked slowly to a nearby tree, her fingers lightly brushing the bark. "Peace is not something to find, not something to hold on to. It is a way of being, of allowing everything to unfold without resistance." She paused, turning her gaze back to Lucas. "You are caught in the tension between wanting and letting go, but peace arises when you stop trying to control it." Lucas stood silent, absorbing the words, trying to grasp their meaning. He looked up at the sky, watching the clouds slowly drift by. For the first time, the motion of the world seemed to make sense. Perhaps, just like the clouds, he was not meant to hold on to anything. He was meant to move, to be in the present moment without clinging to what was before or what might come. "I see," Lucas said quietly, almost to himself. The journey was not about finding peace, but about allowing it to emerge naturally, like a cloud clearing after a storm. The realization left him both humbled and relieved, but there was still a long way to go. After a long pause, Lucas took a deep breath, the air around him feeling heavy and still. "I don't understand. If peace is within me, why can't I find it? Why does it feel like I am always searching for something just out of reach?" The words came out in a rush, and Lucas suddenly felt more vulnerable than he had in years. Amara's quiet gaze was unshaken, her presence unchanging. "Because you are searching with the wrong intention," Amara replied gently. "You are looking for something to fill the emptiness inside you, but the emptiness is not something to be feared. It is not a void to be filled. It is the space in which everything arises." Lucas stood silent, absorbing the words, trying to understand. He looked up at the sky, watching the clouds drift slowly, and felt the weight of the world momentarily lift. "I see," he said quietly, his voice soft. "I've been trying to fill the emptiness with answers, but perhaps I was meant to simply be with it." Amara smiled gently. "Exactly. It is in the acceptance of the emptiness that you will find what you seek. Peace is not an object to possess. It is a presence that exists within you when you stop searching for it." Lucas stood silently for a moment, the weight of his inner turmoil beginning to ease. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time he felt a glimmer of understanding. Maybe peace wasn't something to be found. Maybe it was something to allow, something that was always there, waiting for him to stop fighting. The sun had climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the temple courtyard. Lucas sat at the base of a stone statue, his fingers tightly gripping the edge of his robe. The events of the past few days had only added to his frustration. No matter how much he tried to meditate, no matter how deeply he searched within, peace seemed elusive, slipping through his fingers like water. Master Takashi's words echoed in his mind, "You must let go, and then you will see." But how could he let go when every part of him was so desperate to find the answer? Lucas clenched his jaw, feeling the weight of his impatience. "Why can't I do this?" he muttered to himself. "I should be better at this by now. I've practiced for so long." But it wasn't working. The more he tried, the more frustrated he became. His mind raced with thoughts of failure. He glanced around the courtyard, his gaze falling on Amara, who was sitting nearby, her posture serene as she meditated. She had found peace, or so it seemed. Lucas couldn't help but feel resentment bubbling inside him. She seemed so effortless in her practice, so at ease. He stood up abruptly, walking away from the stone statue, his steps heavy. "I must be missing something," Lucas said under his breath, feeling a bitter knot form in his stomach. The feeling of inadequacy lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. How could he continue when everything felt so wrong? Amara, sensing Lucas' inner turmoil, approached him quietly. Without a word, she sat down beside him, her presence calm and unassuming. Lucas remained silent, staring at the stone path in front of him, his thoughts a whirlwind of doubt. After a moment, Amara spoke, her voice soft but firm. The struggle you feel is not because you are failing. It is because you are not surrendering. Lucas turned to face her, his eyes wide with confusion. I don't understand. I've been trying so hard to let go. But every time I think I have, the doubt creeps back in. Amara smiled gently, her eyes reflecting the wisdom she had gained over the years. The very effort to let go is what keeps you holding on. True surrender comes when you stop trying to control it, when you accept what is without resistance. Lucas swallowed hard, his mind racing. Could it really be that simple? Could peace only come when he stopped trying so desperately to find it? The words from Amara resonated in Lucas' mind for the rest of the day. That evening, he sat in the temple's meditation hall, his mind restless as he tried once more to let go. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, but as soon as he exhaled, his thoughts flooded back in. Every worry, every fear, every ounce of frustration clawed at him. Just let go, he whispered to himself, but the harder he tried, the more it felt like his mind was slipping out of his grasp. His legs ached from sitting still, his back stiffened, and a deep sense of failure began to settle within him. He was trapped in a cycle of trying, failing, and trying again. It was then that Master Takashi entered the hall, his presence calm and steady. Without a word, he sat down beside Lucas, folding his legs in a meditative posture. For a long while, they sat in silence, the only sound being the occasional rustle of the temple's bamboo. Then Master Takashi spoke, his voice as gentle as the evening breeze. The next morning, Lucas awoke early, his body aching from the long hours of meditation the night before. Despite the fatigue, a small seed of doubt had taken root in his mind. Was Master Takashi right? Could it really be that simple? That peace came not from effort, but from surrender? He spent the entire morning walking the temple grounds, the mist from the morning dew still clinging to the grass. His feet moved mechanically, but his thoughts were scattered. As he passed a small pond, he paused, watching the water ripple gently from the soft breeze. He saw the reflection of the trees, the sky, and his own face distorted in the water. The stillness of the pond reminded him of Master Takashi's words, "When the winds subside, the surface is calm." But what if the winds never stopped? What if his mind would always be turbulent, always chasing after the next answer? Lucas stood still, staring at his reflection. The struggle was real, but something about the pond's stillness gave him a glimpse of hope. That afternoon, Lucas found himself back in the meditation hall, facing his greatest challenge yet, the ability to simply sit, to simply be. Master Takashi had asked him to sit in silence, to do nothing, and to allow whatever came to surface to come and go. Lucas sat down, closed his eyes, and tried to let go of the struggle, but his mind immediately became a whirlwind of thoughts. It felt impossible. Yet this time, he tried something different. Instead of fighting, he allowed the thoughts to come, one after another, like clouds passing in the sky. At first, the thoughts were loud, insistent. But then slowly, the noise began to subside. The thoughts faded, and a sense of stillness began to settle within him. It wasn't peace in the traditional sense, but it was something closer, a quiet acceptance of what was, without needing to change anything. When Lucas opened his eyes, he felt different, lighter. He had not forced peace to come. He had simply allowed it to emerge. Lucas had spent many days in quiet contemplation since the meditation hall, but the gnawing sense of uncertainty still lingered. He had begun to question everything, the teachings, his purpose, and the very foundation of his journey. One evening, while walking alone through the temple gardens, he encountered a figure he had not seen in a while, the catalyst. The ephemeral stranger had always appeared at the most unexpected times, challenging Lucas' beliefs and forcing him to confront uncomfortable truths. "Why are you so troubled?" the catalyst asked, appearing as if from nowhere, their tones soft yet unsettling. "I don't understand anymore," Lucas replied, his voice trembling. "I've been seeking for so long, trying to let go, but nothing has changed. I still feel lost. What's the point of all of this?" The next day, Lucas could not shake the catalyst's words. The idea of not seeking, of simply allowing things to unfold, seemed foreign to him. He met Amara in the temple courtyard, his face clouded with doubt. Amara could sense his unrest and asked him what was troubling him. "I don't know what to think anymore," Lucas admitted, sitting beside her. "I've been struggling so hard to let go, but it feels like I'm being told to stop trying altogether. How is that even possible?" Amara smiled gently, her voice soft but firm. "Sometimes the struggle itself is what keeps you bound. You think that by trying harder, you will find peace. But in truth, peace is already there, beneath all your striving. It's not something to force, Lucas. It's something to uncover by releasing the need to control." Lucas listened intently, but felt a growing resistance. "But how do I stop trying?" he asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "How do I just stop?" Amara looked at him with a quiet compassion. "You don't stop. You simply let go of the need to chase. You let go of the belief that peace is something outside of you. When you do, peace will find you, effortlessly." Lucas' days became a blur as he struggled with the concept of letting go. The more he tried, the more he felt disconnected from the world around him. One evening, after another failed meditation session, Lucas walked to the edge of the temple grounds, seeking solitude. The fading light of the day made the surrounding landscape appear almost surreal, the tall grasses swaying in the wind, the sky painted in deep blues and purples. It was here, at the edge of the world he knew, that he encountered a familiar presence, Master Takashi. The Zen master's eyes were calm, as always, but there was a depth to them now that Lucas had never noticed before. "You look troubled, Lucas," the master said, his voice quiet yet powerful. "But what if I don't know how to stop?" Lucas asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "You stop by realizing there is nothing to stop," Master Takashi replied, his tone serene. "The search is the illusion. When you see that, you will find the truth you seek." Lucas spent the following days in quiet reflection, trying to understand Master Takashi's words. He spent hours by the pond, observing the way the water rippled in response to the breeze. The surface was never still for long, but in the moments when the wind subsided, the water was calm, clear, and reflective. One evening, as he sat by the pond once again, the catalyst appeared before him. This time there was no cryptic message, no riddles. The catalyst simply stood beside him, gazing at the water. "The water does not struggle to be still," the catalyst said softly. "It simply rests when the wind dies down. It does not try to force the wind away, nor does it chase after stillness. It simply allows both to exist." As the days passed, Lucas continued his practice, but something had shifted within him. The more he allowed himself to simply be, without trying to control or force the outcome, the more peaceful he became. The noise in his mind began to subside, and he found himself in moments of clarity, where the world seemed to make perfect sense. One evening, as he sat in the meditation hall, Lucas finally understood what he had been searching for all along. It wasn't the answers, the wisdom, or the teachings. It was the ability to be present, to experience life without the need for explanation. For the first time in his journey, Lucas felt truly at peace. He realized that the search had always been within him, that the peace he had been longing for was not something external, but something he could find in the stillness of the present moment. Lucas spent another sleepless night, his mind consumed by an overwhelming sense of loss. The progress he thought he had made felt like it was slipping through his fingers. He stood by the temple's stone wall, gazing out into the darkness, as if searching for something to give him meaning. His chest tightened, the weight of his emotions suffocating him. Despite everything he had learned, the sense of emptiness persisted. He felt like he was trapped in a cycle he couldn't escape. "I don't know how to do this anymore," he muttered to himself, his voice breaking. "I thought I was closer, but now it feels like I'm further away than ever." The darkness around him seemed to mirror the abyss inside him, and he felt helpless. The next morning, Lucas was barely able to get out of bed. His limbs felt heavy, his body exhausted from both physical and emotional fatigue. He had hoped that time would bring clarity, but all he felt was frustration and despair. As he wandered the temple grounds, he saw Amara sitting by the stone bench, her eyes closed in quiet meditation. The sight of her calmness stirred something in him. He approached, his voice quiet and strained. "I don't know how to go on," Lucas confessed. "I've tried everything. I feel like I'm stuck in a place I can't get out of." Amara opened her eyes slowly, her gaze soft but steady. The days that followed were the hardest Lucas had ever faced. Each moment felt like a battle between resistance and surrender. He began to doubt the very core of his beliefs, questioning whether the path he had been on had any true value. His doubts consumed him. What if this is all just a lie? Lucas thought as he walked through the temple's inner garden, the flowers in full bloom, but his heart heavy. What if there's nothing beyond the struggle, nothing beyond the pain? He found himself wishing for something, anything, that would give him an answer. But all he found was silence. "I can't keep doing this," he whispered, his voice barely audible as he sat down on a stone bench, staring at the beauty around him, but feeling disconnected from it all. In his deepest moment of despair, Lucas found himself back at the pond where he had experienced a glimpse of clarity before. The stillness of the water now seemed like a cruel reminder of what he couldn't attain. He sat by the edge, his mind racing. "Why can't I just find peace?" he asked aloud, his voice breaking as tears began to fall. "Why is it so hard? What am I missing?" The wind picked up slightly, causing the surface of the pond to ripple. In that moment, Lucas realized that the more he clung to the idea of peace, the further it slipped away. The act of seeking was the very thing keeping him from finding what he truly needed. "Maybe I'm not meant to find it," Lucas whispered, feeling both defeated and liberated. The weight of his struggle finally began to lift, if only for a moment. The next day, Lucas returned to the meditation hall, still burdened by his doubts, but determined to continue. As he sat on the floor, the weight of his emotions seemed to dissipate slightly. He closed his eyes, letting the thoughts come and go without trying to control them. For the first time in days, he simply allowed himself to feel everything: the pain, the frustration, the doubt, without judgment. He wasn't trying to fix anything. He wasn't trying to find peace. He was just being. In that moment, Lucas realized that the struggle to find peace was itself the very thing that prevented it. The search had ended not with an answer, but with a quiet surrender. And in that surrender, Lucas felt a small flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. In the days following his surrender, Lucas felt a subtle shift within himself. The struggles that once consumed him seemed to have lessened, and he found himself more present in each moment. It was as though the weight of his internal conflict had finally lifted, and for the first time in years, he could breathe freely. Sitting by the temple garden, Lucas marveled at the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. His mind no longer raced with questions or doubts. The constant search for meaning had stopped, and in that stillness, Lucas began to see the world with new eyes. The flowers, the trees, the sky, everything appeared clearer, more vibrant, more alive. It was as if the world itself had been waiting for him to finally stop fighting. Amara approached Lucas as he sat in the garden, a soft smile on her face. She had noticed the change in him, the way his energy had shifted from restless to calm. "You seem different," she remarked gently, sitting beside him. "I feel different," Lucas replied, his voice steady and peaceful. "I've been looking for peace for so long, trying to force it to happen. But now I see that it was never about seeking. It was about letting go, about accepting things as they are." Amara nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. "The peace you've been searching for was always within you. All that was needed was for you to stop resisting it." Lucas looked at her, the weight of the past few months lifting from his shoulders. Later that afternoon, Lucas found himself walking through the temple grounds with Master Takashi. The air was filled with the scent of incense and the sound of wind through the trees. "Master, I feel lighter now," Lucas said, his voice filled with quiet certainty. "I no longer feel like I'm constantly searching for something. It's as if I've finally come to rest in the present moment." Master Takashi's eyes softened with a knowing smile. That is the way of the Zen practitioner, Lucas, to be present, to let go of all that is unnecessary. Peace is not something to find, it is something to experience. Lucas looked at the master, a deep gratitude in his heart. Thank you, master. I think I finally understand what you meant when you said, you are seeking, but you are lost in your search. Master Takashi nodded. The search was never the problem. It was the desire behind the search. When you let go of that desire, you find what you've been looking for all along. As the sun began to set, Lucas stood at the edge of the temple grounds, looking out over the horizon. The sky was painted with shades of orange and purple, the clouds drifting lazily in the cool evening air. For the first time in years, he felt no pressure to reach for something, no need to fill an emptiness. He simply stood there, breathing in the cool air, feeling the weight of his body grounded in the earth beneath him. It's enough, Lucas whispered to himself, the words a quiet affirmation. I don't need to search anymore. I can just be. In that moment, he felt the world around him, the trees, the wind, the sky, as part of himself. He wasn't separate from it, he was a part of it, flowing with the natural rhythm of life. The inner peace he had long sought was not something outside of him, but something that had always been inside, waiting to be discovered. Lucas stood on the temple steps, looking out over the temple grounds one last time. He had come full circle, from the uncertainty of his search to the quiet realization that peace was not a destination, but a way of being. He had learned to surrender, to accept the present moment without resistance. He looked at the horizon one more time, feeling a sense of contentment that he had never known before. I am here, Lucas whispered softly, the weight of his past struggles finally lifting. And that is enough. The path ahead was still unknown, but for the first time, Lucas was no longer afraid. He had found peace, not in the search, but in the stillness of simply being. It had been several weeks since Lucas had experienced his awakening, and now, with each passing day, he felt more grounded in the present moment. His days were simple but rich with meaning, walking the temple grounds, meditating without expectation, and spending time with the people around him. The anxiety that once plagued him had dissolved, leaving only a quiet, steady presence. One afternoon, as he walked past the pond where he had first felt the stirrings of change, he stopped, noticing how the water had settled into perfect stillness. Just like me, Lucas thought, a small smile forming on his lips. He had come to realize that true peace wasn't something to attain or force, but something to allow. The wind rustled the leaves above him, and for the first time, Lucas understood. Peace is here, he whispered, his voice full of acceptance. The struggle, the seeking, had all been part of his journey. But now, he was no longer searching for anything. He had found everything he needed within himself. Lucas' newfound sense of inner peace became a constant companion. He no longer needed to search for moments of stillness or tranquility. They were simply present in every experience. One afternoon, as he walked with Amara through the temple's orchard, he realized how much he had changed. I don't feel the need to rush anymore, Lucas said, his voice thoughtful. Before, I was always waiting for something to happen, something to change. But now, it feels like everything is already as it should be. Amara smiled, her eyes full of warmth. That is the beauty of acceptance. When you stop trying to force things, you allow them to unfold in their own time. The present moment is enough, Lucas. You don't have to chase anything anymore. Lucas nodded, a sense of deep peace settling within him. I think I've finally let go of the need to control everything, and in that letting go, I found freedom. One evening, Master Takashi invited Lucas to join him by the temple's stone lantern. The fire inside the lantern flickered in the cool night air, casting soft shadows across the stone path. You seem at peace, Lucas, Master Takashi observed, his voice calm as ever. I am, Lucas replied, his words steady. For the first time, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. There's no rush, no anxiety. I've stopped searching for answers, and in doing so, I feel more connected to everything. Master Takashi nodded, his gaze steady. That is the essence of Zen, Lucas, the ability to be present, to embrace what is without resistance. You are no longer trapped by the need to find meaning. You've discovered that meaning exists in the simple act of being. Lucas paused, absorbing the weight of the Master's words. I finally understand, Master. It was never about the destination. It was about accepting the journey. As the seasons passed, Lucas became a different person. He no longer clung to expectations or ambitions. Each day was simply an opportunity to experience life, to walk the temple grounds, and to be present. He no longer needed answers or goals to feel fulfilled. One morning, as Lucas meditated in the garden, the rising sun casting a warm glow across the landscape, he felt something stir inside him, a sense of deep contentment. The world seemed to open up before him in a way he hadn't imagined. His connection to everything, to the temple, the trees, the sky, it all felt so natural, so right. Lucas opened his eyes, feeling as though the entire world had aligned with him. He was not separate from the world, he was part of it. With a deep breath, Lucas smiled. I don't need to search anymore, he thought. I am enough, just as I am. One evening, as the wind rustled through the trees, Lucas stood at the top of the temple steps, looking out over the horizon. The world stretched out before him, vast and endless, yet somehow intimate. It was as though everything in the world, everything in his life, had brought him to this moment. I'm here, Lucas whispered to himself. The weight of his past struggles finally lifted. And that's enough. For the first time, Lucas understood that peace was not something to be chased, nor was it something to attain. It was not a distant goal, but the present moment, fully lived and embraced. He was no longer bound by the search for meaning. He had found peace in the simple act of being. The horizon before him was vast, but now Lucas was no longer looking for a destination. He was simply living. It had been several months since Lucas had found the quiet peace he now lived in daily. Each day had unfolded naturally, free from the pressure of searching or striving. The temple had become a sanctuary of stillness, and Lucas had become a living embodiment of the Zen teachings. One morning, as the sun rose over the temple grounds, he stood near the edge of the courtyard, watching the light spread across the land. The sky was clear, the air crisp, and the world felt expansive. Lucas had no desire to change anything. The world, just as it was perfect. He had come to understand that life was not about reaching a specific point or place. It was about being fully present, moment to moment. I am not lost, he whispered to himself, the weight of his past struggles completely gone. I am here, and that is enough. Later that day, Lucas sat with Master Takashi in the meditation hall, the familiar stillness of the space around them. The incense burned slowly, the soft aroma filling the room. Master, Lucas said, his voice calm but filled with deep gratitude. I feel as though I have come full circle. All these years of searching, of seeking answers, I now realize it was never about the search at all. Lucas nodded slowly, his heart full of understanding. I see now, Master. I was never lost. I simply needed to stop searching and start living. Master Takashi's voice softened. And that is the way of true freedom. As the days passed, Lucas began to notice the subtle ways in which the world had shifted. He was no longer bound by the fluctuations of his thoughts or the judgments of his mind. Everything had become simpler. He was fully immersed in the flow of life. One afternoon, while walking through the temple grounds, Lucas encountered a fellow monk, an old friend from his early days at the temple. The monk, noticing Lucas' calm presence, asked, "What has changed in you, Lucas? You seem different now." One evening, as Lucas sat by the temple's stone lantern, his thoughts returned to his journey. He had been through so much, the endless searching, the frustration, the doubts, yet now, as he sat in the stillness of the night, he realized how much he had changed. It wasn't that the world had changed, it was that his perception had shifted. The search for answers had faded, and in its place was a quiet acceptance of what was. I am not what I was, Lucas thought, his voice barely a whisper. I am not the sum of my past struggles, nor am I defined by my desires. I am simply here, in this moment, whole and complete. The final moment of Lucas' journey arrived quietly. He stood at the temple's entrance, looking out over the world beyond. The sun had set, and the sky was painted with deep shades of purple and gold. It was a moment of stillness, a moment of reflection, as if time itself had paused to allow him to appreciate the fullness of his journey. "I am not lost. I am here," Lucas whispered, the words not just a realization, but a deep truth that had settled within his heart. He no longer needed to search for answers or strive for peace. He was at peace, simply being, simply living. As the temple bell rang softly in the distance, Lucas closed his eyes and took a deep breath, the weight of his past struggles lifting completely. The journey was not about a destination, but about the way of being, of living in harmony with the present moment. And in this, Lucas had found everything.